Yo, we got a video here today, and we're looking at this magical word that can have 10 different meanings, sometimes ones that might contradict itself. Let's get right into it.
There's a big difference between the perception of what feminism is and the truth of what it means.
That's huge. That is a massive red pill, because even if you know what the truth is, it doesn't matter if the perception is being broadcast ahead of you 100 times, and then the truth gets buried right at the bottom.
Feminism means everyone is treated fairly and with respect.
Feminism is not anti-anything, it's pro-equality.
I'm a feminist because I want my wife to feel as empowered in her life as I do in mine.
As a mother, it's really important for me to teach my kids, my son and my daughter, to treat everybody with respect, irrespective of their gender.
We had a word for that. I thought it was like egalitarian. Like, I guess even to some degree like libertarian. Just this idea of we're all equal. There's a kind of like a meritocracy, but that's not what it is. It's saying that's what it is, but it's hiding behind a female-driven agenda, a female chauvinism. This idea of, hey, we need more of you as president, more as the politicians, more as the CEOs. Could care less about the construction jobs and don't even care about that. It's just like, I want to have 50% representation as a movie director in Hollywood.
As a member of the LGBT community, I know what oppression feels like. And I know that oppression of any group is unfair and counterproductive.
I have a husband, 4 brothers, and 2 sons who are all feminists because they believe in equality between men and women.
No, they're that because they don't want to argue with mum. They don't want to argue with their wife, so they just go along with it, you know. Beta! It's unfortunate. Sometimes you want to pick your battles and you just don't want to argue.
Being the best version of yourself means being a feminist.
I'm a feminist because I envision a society where everyone can thrive by being their exact, perfect, authentic self.
But it means your authentic self. No one else can be authentic. No one else can have their own ideologies or religions. No way. It has to all be you be your authentic self as a hardcore progressive. I mean, sure.
I've got to say, I've been on our Facebook page and seen all the comments from men saying, well, I'll celebrate International Women's Day once there's an International Men's Day.
I've seen a lot of that as well.
There is an International Men's Day, you idiot.
Oh, there is?
Google it. For goodness.
Google it. He doesn't realize that that's the problem. You actually would have to Google it because you don't really know. You definitely know there's a female day. We get bombarded with it every single year. But don't really know too much about the other one. That's why you're saying, hey, Google it. Normally you Google something because you don't really know. It's not really in the main headlines.
For goodness sake, this is why I hate people.
You can't say that.
Honestly, no. You despair. You think, really? This is the evolution has reached this point?
Well, you know, it's like we wouldn't need an International Women's Day.
Sorry.
As Jacinda Ardern
it's just embarrassing.
Said, we weren't getting beaten up in our homes or we were actually represented at the highest level.
Okay, I'm just making mental note.
Does anyone, let's say hypothetically in the TV industry and the presenting industry, this is the highest level. Are they not represented in the highest level? There's 4 people on this set. 3 of them are ladies, 3, and one of them, beta. I don't know what, but he's barely a guy. And
don't talk about International Men's Day and don't talk about Ed Sheeran.
Here's the thing. There is an International Men's Day. There's probably less reason to celebrate International Men's Day, but there are just so...
There you go. There's the anger. There's less reason to... Who even knows what day it is, right? Google it. Google it, retard.
So many idiots who go online and write, oh, well, what about International Men's Day? There is an International Men's Day. Google it. It's in November. I'm sure you can celebrate.
He seems like he's happy. He seems like he wouldn't want to celebrate that one, but he's got no problem waving the flag. Hopefully he'll get laid. Beta. Hopefully he'll get laid for saying this type of stuff.
But it wasn't until I was standing in the supermarket next to the bananas with my son George, who's a little bit older than this now, but he was about 10 at the time, and he looked up at me and he said, Mum, why are you obsessed with women's rights? What about me? And it started me thinking about men's role in feminism and gender equality.
Started getting the hamster wheel rolling and thinking, how can I use this new tool at the age of 10 to further along my own agenda? He's asking a legitimate question. He's like, well, you're focused on that movement. What about, little Timmy down here? What about little Tim? We need a new soccer ball. We need some new kit. We need new shorts to play football in the weekend. Now, who cares about that? We need to make sure that the ladies have more stuff.
My partner and I had been really clear that we wanted our daughter Rosa to have as many chances in life as our son. I had seen too many girls in different parts of the world who were denied those chances. I knew...
Have to do that too. They have all this privilege in England. This sounds like a British accent, but England, America, Canada, all of Europe, all of these countries, right? They got all this privilege, but they have to go off to Indonesia somewhere or some place in Africa to say, hey, well, look how bad it is in this place. We need even more privilege in a place where none of that happens.
That, for example, one woman in three faces violence from an intimate partner, usually a man. And that hasn't changed since I was a young woman.
You want to talk about some interesting stats?
Lesbians!
That's where there's a real high risk of it, when it's the lady on lady. I mean, no one wants to bring that. That's why she said she had to clarify, normally it's a male partner.
We also knew that only 22% of parliamentarians globally are women. And even in the UK, the gender pay gap is 19%. I could go on. Lots more statistics about the...
More lies, gender pay gap. Work the hours. Straight up. Look at the hours worked before you even start talking about the pay gap.
Inequalities between men and women. But it did start me thinking, my son's question did start me thinking, well, do men have a role in this? I'd always seen men as part of the problem, but could they possibly also be part of the solution?
Who knows? But I actually agree, and maybe in a different way. We are part of the problem. We've enabled this. We've allowed this. We do it because we just want to get laid.
Beta!
Basically, some people will put up with a lot of crap just to get a sniff, a literal sniff.
So when I was visiting girls in Pakistan and other countries, I started watching the boys. And I remember very clearly being in South Africa, for example, and being in a health clinic, talking to girls about reproductive...
Listen to this story. You go from Pakistan to South Africa. I mean, and then you went to the Somalian camp, and then you went to North Korea, and then you went to some part of China.
Right. And outside, I could see these little heads bobbing up and down as the boys looked in to see what was going on. Why couldn't we be involved as well? Asking the same question as my son. What about me? So I started talking to the men when I'd gone out to visit the women. I met Cristobal in the Dominican Republic, who'd come together as part of a group of men who were concerned about rising violence against women in their community. That violence had often happened because the women had gone abroad to work, and when they came back, the men didn't have a role, they didn't know what to do. He said his own father had been violent towards his mother. He didn't want that to continue for the next generation. Or Stephen, who's part of our...
You need overall stats here. You can't just say this Jake the Musk been beating up his missus when like 99% of the population is getting it right. So let's change the entire society because of this person in Pakistan or this person in South Africa.
A campaign that I've been involved in called Men Care, which is about getting men more involved in the home. Stephen's from Sri Lanka. You see him here with his 2 children. His wife also went to work abroad, and he wanted to look after the children, despite the women in the family saying, you don't know what to do, you'd be hopeless, you don't know how to do anything. And he didn't at first. He didn't know what to do about taking them to school, what they wore, what they ate, what happened when they were ill. This is him in a hospital. But actually, by the time his wife came back, he was quite clear that he wanted to share responsibilities with her. And he said...
Well, I mean, to some degree, you should just know how to do these things. But obviously, if you're the breadwinner, you're working 60 hours and the other one's working 20 hours or whatever, you might have to pay someone to look after kids, or the person that's working less, they have to pick up the slack.
If there's one thing that money can't buy, that is the love of a child. I talked to many, many more men as well as women in the course of researching my book on feminism and men. And I have become increasingly convinced that we need to involve men in a number of different ways in work on gender equality and women's rights. So what are those ways?
Open up your wallet, get to work, cook her breakfast in the morning, make sure she has a hot coffee. And these are gestures you can do anyway, but basically it's just like, do more. More. It's never ending. And to some degree, this is an old one. This is from 2015, but it sounds like it was from yesterday. I mean, it's just as bad.
I'm going to give you a few examples. I think the first thing to say is that it's really important that we don't forget that we're working with women and girls as well. There's a possibility of taking resources, taking time, of men doing the mansplaining thing, and women getting left out. We really need to...
How ironic to say the mansplaining thing is she's on a TED Speak just running her mouth. No interruptions. She just gets to say whatever she wants. She gets to talk about the gender pay gap. Gender pay gap, which is real, so real. There is a gender pay gap. One group works longer hours. One group works jobs where you might not survive the next day. It's dangerous. One group goes to different countries to earn more money. And that's why one group makes more money.
Keep the focus on women and girls in this work. So to work with women and girls, to work with men and boys, and to work with them together. The second thing is that we need to start really early. When boys are very young, when girls are very young. And there are some great programs out there that are already doing this. For example, here in...
Yeah, her words. Program them early. Program the kids early. Don't let them just realize. I mean, at school, you kind of learn on your own. You play sports, you get into hobbies and chess, and you realize there is a difference. There is a difference between us. We have different interests. We have different hobbies. Some people are just, that's all they do, and that's why they get really good at it, because they just go at it for 12 hours a day.
In the UK, there's a programme called Great Men Value Women, which goes into schools and talks to young men about what's it like to be a man, how do you feel about girls, what do you feel about the influence in your society. And there are other programmes around the world like that, for example, Coaching Boys into Men in India, which does the same thing, but through sport, through cricket, in fact.
Who pays for all this? Where's it coming from? Taxpayers' money? Is it coming from some random slush fund somewhere? I mean, you think they get to openly have propaganda, activism, whatever you want to call it, education, whatever that means now in 2022. And if you do it, it's potentially a form of terrorism. You can't say those words. No way.
I think the next thing that we need to think about is getting men to clean the toilets. There is no country in the world where women and men do an equal amount of unpaid work in the home, whether that's childcare or domestic work. And
I'm actually fine with that. I'll clean the toilet, and you earn more money than me. You work 60, 80 hours. You go down into the coal mines and reduce your lifespan by 10 years because of lung cancer maybe that you're going to bring on from working in those conditions. And yeah, and I'll clean the toilet. I'll clean the toilet because that's pretty tough.
If we could change that, it would not only be good for men and women, it would also mean a revolution in our workplace as well as in our home. So we started to explore, as part of research for the first ever State of the World's Fathers that I've been involved in, what that would mean. And actually we found that fatherhood is the one point in a man's life where change is really possible, because he's thinking about himself as a father, what his father was like, what his children might be like.
I think the fatherhood question comes in is that now you've got a new purpose. People obviously try to find throughout their life what their purpose is. Some people never find it, but some people might find it. Now that purpose is driven by not only their own aspirations, their own goals, but they've got children that need food, that need a house, that need their own father to guide them. So it just adds a little extra to the plate. And
again, there are some wonderful projects around that too. So in Rwanda, There's a project with an organisation called Ramwek, which works with men before their fathers. And the women in the community have made these wonderful daddy dolls so that the men can practice changing nappies and dropping the babies when they're not actually real babies.
That's what they need. That's what they need in Africa. They need these daddy dolls. They need
Beta!
to get indoctrinated with the kind of crap we learn in America, New Zealand, Australia, UK, Canada, Europe. Get to do this. You know they're not doing this in Central Africa. I've actually had conversations on Omegle with people, and they don't play this kind of game one bit.
And working out how it all works. So that's a fantastic project, and many others like it. I think the other thing we need to do is to ensure that there's a lot of legislation now that's in favour of women's rights. But we need to ensure that that legislation gets enacted on the ground. And in order to do that, we need to work with men in power. That might be presidents and CEOs, but it might also be imams, faith leaders, community leaders. And again, there are some programs doing.
How much more? You've got to change society, the rules, you've got to give them all these benefits, and potentially it's still not going to be enough. Still not going to be enough because they're just potentially not able to handle it. They can't handle the pressure. Some people, any person can break under pressure. Anyone.
Doing exactly that kind of thing. And think finally, we need to persuade men that this is good for them too, because men are not going to change unless they also see that they benefit. I was talking to...
Persuade, she means trick. You've got to trick us into thinking, this is a good deal, guys. Definitely, get in line.
A young man called Luis in Dominican Republic who said to me, gender equality makes me happy. And it's quite clear that gender inequality not only makes women suffer, but it also makes men suffer too. Men die younger than women. They're often not in touch with their emotions. They're often not in touch with their children. So gender equality also benefits men.
So going into your little talking point there, you just said, this random guy in Dominican Republic, man, I'm a bit tired, I need to go to bed. He says in English, this thing makes me happy. And then you just get to run off some propaganda. It's like, what? That's your source. Some random guy, Rodrigo, said, this is good, I like it.
And I do think this is beginning to change. So I've met lots of young men and women who call themselves feminists. I think the younger generation, the mine, are much happier to call men feminists as well as women feminists. I think that's a great change. Whether they call themselves pro-feminist or feminist, I don't really mind. I think there are...
What if you just say, I'm not into that type of stuff? Do you mind then? Because I thought we live in a society where be who you are. Be what you are. Be proud of yourself. Okay, well, I think this is a load of garbage. I think this is a load of crap.
There are fantastic campaigns out there, like the United Nations He for She campaign, which gets men to sign up in support of women's rights, and over 500,000 men around the world have already signed up. I was in Delhi last November with 1,200 people from 700 organisations in 92 countries.
That's not even a good turnout. 500,000 men out of everybody. What are we at now? 7 billion? You had more people doing petitions on Amber Heard with the Johnny Depp saying, lock her up.
And what were they talking about? They were talking about men and gender equality. They were talking about how to build a better society by involving men and boys. It was a fantastic conference. TED is about changing the world. And I'm clear about one thing. We women have changed the world beyond our grandmother's wildest dreams.
Yep, I will agree with that, and we're going to find out whether that was a good thing or a not so good thing, and we'll probably see that more in the next 5 to 10 years. But anyway, gents, we're going to leave it right there. As always, thoughts, comments, but low. And hit that like on the way out. It takes 1.5 seconds, and who's not hit that subscribe button? You got to smash it, crush it, break the thing. And we'll see you on the next one. Peace out.